Hello my friends, welcome or welcome back to Pages and Pearls. This is my YouTube channel. My name is Hannah and I am the maker here, and I talk about all things knitting mostly, sometimes about books or writing or other things, but yeah, it's been a while and I just wanted to record a regular podcast episode to kind of catch you up on all the things I've been knitting on. I think about 2 months have passed since I last recorded, so I have a few things to go through. But before we get into it, I hope you're having a great day when you're watching this. I hope you can settle in with your knitting or a warm drink, or just have me playing in the background while you get things done around the house. All of those are usually when I watch YouTube videos. So let's get into it. Alright, it's been quite a while since I last recorded because we moved house first, then I went on a lovely trip to Italy with my family, and then I got a really bad cold, so it wasn't really like the moment to record anything. In the meantime, a few things have hopped on and off my needles, and the longer I kept delaying the video, the less I felt like recording something, just because some of these pieces have been finished for a while, but I now wanted to finally sit down, talk through them all, and kind of like, also make some space on my needles, because I've had this phase where I felt I've been casting on a lot of things, casting off quite a few things as well, but then not really wanting to do any kind of like finishing. Like sewing on the buttons of this cardigan took me forever. But this video was a good motivation to kind of finally wrap up a few things. So let's head right into it. And I actually already started talking about this. So this is my first finished object. What I'm wearing, that is the Fennel seed jacket by Florence Miller, who is also handmade by Florence here on YouTube. I definitely recommend checking out her channel. I really like her videos, and also I really like her patterns. I think this year in summer I made one of her summer tops. I also made a pair of socks, 2 pairs of socks by her last year, and I just find them really well written. I love the kind of, there's always very neat and nice techniques in them, nice stitch patterns, and just overall really lovely. But back to this cardigan. So this is the Fennel seed jacket. It's a top-down raglan broken rib stitch pattern, and as you can see, it's a cardigan. I cropped mine quite a bit, so it's only hitting until kind of like, my hip bone, I would say, not even. The original pattern is a little bit longer, but I wanted it to be shorter, especially because I also wear a lot of high-waisted jeans, skirts. I wanted it to go with dresses, and I'm really happy with how the length turned out. I will get closer in a moment to show off the stitch pattern properly, because I feel like with this yarn color it's always a little bit trickier to show off stitch patterns. The yarn is lovely though. So this is the Rauma Fivel, which is a Norwegian wool. I knit this on 5mm needles, as the pattern also suggests. I believe the pattern suggests knitting for olive heavy merino with a strand of mohair. I'm not sure, but I'll link, as always, I'll link everything down below in the info box, so then you can also check out the pattern there. And I will also link my Ravelry page for the project, so all the kind of like data are in there, like what yarn I used, which colorway, and so on. But this is the colorway 6, which is this like lovely burgundy, darkish red wine color that I'm absolutely in love with. And the yarn, I think, is technically a DK weight yarn, but because it's quite lofty, you can knit it up to gauge. This was recommended to me by Valentina, who's the owner of My Ivory Room, which is a lovely yarn shop here in London, and that's also where I picked up this yarn, and she kind of advised me a little bit with the yardage and everything, because it is quite different yarn from the one suggested. So that was really, really nice. And again, if you want more details on that, I hope my Ravelry page will be enough, but if there's something unclear, just drop me a message. The cardigan is basically knitted top down. You do these lovely raglan increases that, here you can see them. There are a few stitches in those, which I really like. And then you have the ribbing on the sleeves and on the end of the body, and then you do a double knitted button band and double knitted collar. I've made 2 cardigans so far before, and both of them had the button band built in as you were knitting, which is kind of nice for less finishing work at the end, but I found it a bit tricky because you basically already from the start have to know to which length you want your cardigan knit, so you can space out the buttonholes properly in that other constructions. Whereas in this one, you can basically just knit to the length you want it, and then afterwards, as you kind of like plan out your button band, you figure out how many buttons and where they have to go. So the original sample, as I said, is longer, and it has 6 buttons, and as you can see, I only have 5 here, because for the cropped length that I did, I felt 6 was a little bit too crowded. I actually enjoyed the double knit button band. I don't know what it is about double knitting, but I find it very easy to get into, and I get into a flow the same as I do with I-cord, like applied I-cord. So I like both of those, but I can also understand that the kind of it feels like a little bit of a hassle when you've cast off the whole piece and then you have to pick up all of these stitches again and get into it. But I personally enjoyed it. For me, the biggest barrier was just sewing on these buttons at the end. And I'm still not sure I'm happy with how I did it. But just to tell you a bit more about the buttons, so these are these lovely buttons. I'll just get a bit closer. The buttons are from a shop called Pigeon Wishes, which is a shop based here in the UK, where I'm also based, and I ordered them online. I saw them previously on a few channels. I think first I saw them on Marlene Knit's podcast. She talked about them at some point, and I really like the look of them. They have these kind of nice, colorful, like some are more muted in color, but kind of like varied buttons that I like very much. Just to say also in terms of techniques for the button band, for the buttonholes, I actually didn't follow the pattern properly, but looked at Florence's step-by-step cardigan tutorial video. It's a video that accompanies her step-by-step cardigan pattern, which I haven't made, but I found it really helpful to look at how she makes the buttonholes there, because it doesn't require you to break the yarn, but kind of works with a bit of like shorter shaping. So I will also link that video below, because I found that very helpful. And then for sewing on the buttons, because the double knit button band is quite thick, I followed a tutorial from Amy Sher Makes, who has an Instagram account and also is a pattern designer, and she uploaded a blog post recently for how to kind of create like a button shank, so a bit of space between your button and the button band, so that the other side can kind of like slide over it without warping your button band too much. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, but in her blog post you can kind of like see the difference in the images, and I found that really helpful, so I tried to follow that. So I'll show you the cardigan buttoned up. Again, I'm not super convinced yet. I'm very happy with how I sewed on the buttons, especially the bottom one, but I'll just do up a few of the buttons so you can see the cardigan, what it looks like when it's buttoned up, or at least when the buttons, most of them, are buttoned up. And basically, with the lowest button, I think that I sewed on the button too high, so that the button band kind of goes down a little bit. But anyways, overall I'm really happy with this one. I haven't worn it yet because I actually only sewed on the buttons this morning, because I wanted to finally do it after delaying it for a few weeks. I cast this off, I think 2-3 weeks ago already, so I'm really looking forward to wearing it. It's really warm, so that really fits with the kind of cold snap that we've had here in the UK. Temperature went up on the weekend, but now we're back to like really sunny but really cold weather. So I think this is perfect, and I'm gonna meet a friend for a coffee later, and I'll keep this on for sure to brave the outside temperatures. Right, that's the first thing that I finished. Let's continue. Something that I already talked about in my last video, because it was a work in progress, were these pumpkin patch socks, as I call them. They're basically just a simple vanilla sock where I did a 1x1 cuff, 1x1 rib cuff. I knitted the ribbing inside out in the hopes that it would look neater this way, which is what I do quite often on ribbing. I actually did that here as well, that the ribbing in the round, like so on the sleeves, I knitted inside out. And then on the socks I went on to a 3x1 rib for the foot, and I also just did a regular heel flap and gusset for the heel. And yeah, it's basically a vanilla sock, and I just really wanted to knit with this yarn and have like a very simple rib pattern to get the full effect of this variegated yarn. The yarn that I used for the main colorway is this Wool Addicts, Footprints Wool Addicts yarn that I picked up last winter when I was visiting Germany, where I'm from. And this is a bamboo, I think it's a wool cotton, sorry, no bamboo, scratch the bamboo, a wool cotton polyamide mix, and this is the colorway 08 as far as I know, and it's this kind of really nice yarn with two different colored strands twisted into each other, so it has a little bit this kind of like handspun vibe to it, although obviously it's not. And I just really liked it in ball foam, and I also really like it worked up. Actually, these socks took me, I think the first sock took me 5 days, and then the other one barely more than a week, just because the pattern itself was really addictive for me, and I actually really like the feel of them as well. I've worn them a couple of times now, and with the cotton in there that is around 40-50%, it is a little bit airier than a regular sock, which I think now for autumn, like for the transition into winter when it wasn't as cold yet, was really nice. And I'm just also quite curious how they wear, and if the heel or anything gets worn through quicker because of the material. I'm not sure. It's the first time I knit with this kind of yarn combination or yarn blend. And then for the contrast, I just used this, I think this is a Filcolana Harueta, so the sock wool. I'm not sure exactly which colorway this is, but I will put that in my Ravelry notes, and that's just what I used for the cuff and for the toe. This was also the first time I knit a regular vanilla sock for myself on 2.5mm needles. I usually use 2.25. And I actually really liked the fabric it created, so I'm thinking maybe I'll vary it a bit more often from now on. And yeah, I also have the other sock here. I just put one on the sock blocker to show it off, because I also finished a second sock. This one. This is the Aviva sock. The Aviva sock is a sock pattern by Lydia Huth, who's Lydia Rababa here on YouTube. She has a few nice sock patterns, and this is actually my first one of hers. This is a sock with a broken rib texture and these tiny little lace motifs in it. That is just lovely. I love how the kind of, it is simple enough to use a mildly hand-dyed yarn with a little bit of color variation in it, but also gives it a nice extra pizzazz. And the sock is, I knit this up when I was in Italy on holiday, so it also went quite quickly. It's basically, as I said, a broken rib pattern. It has these little lace motifs with some yarn overs in it, and you start off with a half twisted rib cuff, and then it's also just a regular heel flapped gusset. And as you can see, I used a different color for the heel and the toe. And basically what I used as yarn for this sock is this sock set. I have it here, also the leftovers in ball form. It's a sock set by a British indie dyer called the Camel's Yarn, and the sock set is a BFL, I think it's called Peach and Pastry sock set, I'm guessing this is the peach and this is the pastry. I picked this up at Beautiful Knitters here in London, and I really like the yarn because I don't know, I just really like BFL socks. I believe this is 80% or 75% blue-faced Leicester and 25% nylon. And also these I've worn a few times now. They are quite a bit shorter because, I don't know, I just didn't feel like making them that long. And so far they're very comfortable. Again, only one is on the sock blocker, but I have the other one here. And yeah, these were basically my 2 socks that I kind of knit in and around Socktober. I think this one I started in September, so it only went a little bit into October. This one was a full October pair of socks, and I will show you in a minute also in my works in progress that I'm working on another pair of socks at the moment. Yeah, so these are my finished socks for the month. I don't know, at some point, I think also when I was sick and with the traveling and the moving, I just really felt like working on very small, manageable projects without a lot of finishing work, just knitting away on my little tiny circular needles on my socks. So those were really great to work on for that mood. And then other things I worked on. So one I have not here with me today, but I'm going to put in some footage of this just to show. One thing that I finished is basically this very simple cowl. I did not follow a pattern for this. Basically, my partner wanted something where I, for example, especially now in autumn when it wasn't that cold yet, but a little bit windy, I would put on kind of like a small mini scarf, like a Sophie scarf or Italian summer scarf, like these small ones, just to have it under the collar of my jacket. He doesn't have something like that, and he wanted to have something similar, that it was lightweight and small enough to just put in the pocket of your jacket and then take out whenever you need it. So I decided to make this very simple cowl for him, using a very bougie cashmere yarn. I still have the little bit of yarn here, so I can show you that. So this is the Cardiff Cashmere Classic in the colorway 700, which is this lovely beigey brown, light brown colorway. And the cowl that I made was basically just a half fisherman's rib pattern that I knit into like a long rectangle, and then I grafted the ends together to make it into a cowl. Not very elaborate, I would say. I put the notes in my Ravelry as well. Yeah, I just wanted something really simple. I think I might have been able to figure out something with a provisional cast on to make it look more seamless, but I actually also like the look of the kind of seam there, to break up the small loop a bit. He's really happy about it. He's been using it all the time, which is why I don't have it here with me today, because he left for work already. But it was really nice to knit on, and it was also a nice experience knitting with the Cardiff Cashmere, which I've never used before. And I think, yeah, trying out these kind of like nice, slightly more expensive but very luxurious yarns, especially for around the neck, is really nice, because I know that tends to be a bit more sensitive part. So that was another finished object, and I definitely want to make more of these, or like mini scarves, because they're just really enjoyable to knit on and very great as Christmas gifts. Actually, this was a really early Christmas gift. I had the idea to make this for him, but then realized it was more useful for him to have it already in autumn rather than only give it to him at the end of December. So I kind of cast it on early and just went through it for him to wear it. And I used about 1.5 balls of yarn, so this is the leftover of my second ball. But again, the kind of exact gram measurements and everything will be on the Ravelry page. Right, moving on. We still have a few more finished objects. The next thing I worked on, I've never actually made anything for the hands, like mittens or fingerless gloves or anything before, and I wanted to do that this year. And basically I decided to get started a bit earlier, well, now we're already at the end of November, so it wasn't that early in the end. Get started a bit earlier with my Christmas knits and gifts that I wanted to give, and I decided to make these hand warmers for my mom. I'm aware that you can probably not see them very well because I used black yarn. It's a very dark yarn coated episode, I think, which is not so usual for me, but yeah, I'll figure it out how to film them properly for you. So these are fingerless mitts. They are the Cloudburst Mittens. The Cloudburst Mittens are a pattern by Arienne Gray. These are actually a free pattern on Ravelry. So again, check it out below. And they are these fingerless mitts that have a twisted rib cuff. Then you have a very lovely lace pattern on your, like, up the arm. You do increases for your thumb. It uses here lifted increases, which I have done before, but I hadn't done in a while, so it was fun to get to do these again. And then you finish off with a twisted rib here on the top, and also you have a bit of twisted rib on the thumb. And yeah, I'll get a bit closer so you can see the pattern. So here you see it a bit better. Still looks a little bit bunched up in sections, but I still have enough time to block them until Christmas. So yeah, these were very fun to work on because, again, it was my first time working on fingerless mitts. The two things that were not fun were, well, the one thing that was not fun was basically to knit a lace pattern in a black yarn, which meant I had to kind of like hold it up to the light or put something light into the kind of tube every now and then to see that I didn't mess up on the lace pattern. And I did have to rip back, I think, 2 times or so because I messed something up and obviously wanted to make it look nice. I think this is much nicer if you use a lighter yarn, or like easier to work on if you use a lighter yarn, but I really like the effect of the lace pattern with the black yarn. The yarn is a hand-dyed yarn, a tonal by The Uncommon Thread. This is the ball band. It's the Tough Sock, which is 80% superwash BFL, 20% nylon, and this is the colorway Coven, which I already showed you the gloves. This is this lovely, very dimensional, I think, black yarn. I was looking for something that was that had kind of luster and reflects the light well, so that the black doesn't look so kind of like swallowing up all light, and a little bit kind of more delicate to match the lace pattern. And I'm really happy with this yarn choice. I think also a BFL for a pair of fingerless mitts can be quite nice because it's a little bit tougher to wear, I think, or like it holds up to some more friction, which I think can be nice if you use your hands. And yeah, so these are the fingerless mitts. As I said, the pattern is available for free online. I think it calls for a sport weight, if I'm not mistaken, but I just used like maybe even a DK, I'm not sure. I just used a fingering weight on 3mm needles, and I really like how the fit of these turned out. I think, especially because I haven't blocked them yet, right? So they might still relax a little bit around the stitch pattern, but I think anything with a heavier or like a larger gauge would have probably given too much positive ease for the mittens. So I'm really happy with this yarn choice. And now let's get to my last finished object, another dark thing, which is this lovely baby knit. I'm going to visit a friend over the weekend who had a baby last year already, but I haven't met him yet, so I wanted to bring something. And this is, again, it's going to be hard to show off, but this is the Loddon Sweater Baby by the Knit Purl Girl, which is a pattern she released a few weeks ago. I believe there's also an adult version coming at some point. I know that it's in testing right now, and I really like the construction of this, so I have my eyes on it, on a version for myself. But let's talk about this one. So this is basically a raglan sweater with a kind of, it's not really a v-neck, but it has this nice overlaid kind of, I don't know how to describe it, this V with a button band that is not buttons, but this kind of like finishing touch. Then it overlaps here at the bottom. Should have put this on a clothes hanger, but my clothes hangers aren't tiny enough for baby knits, so I'll have to figure this out. Yes, so this is the Loddon sweater baby. I knit this in a size 1-year-old, I think, and I used the yarn drops charisma for it in this chocolatey brown. That here, this is how the color actually looks like. Yeah, this is a bit better to show off, and this is the front. Again, haven't blocked this one yet, so it still looks a little bit bunched up. I also realized I haven't had this before, knitting back and forth, but with this one I did see a little bit of rowing out where my purl stitches were a bit looser than my knit stitches. I'm hoping that this blocks out properly, and I also had a bit of a tightening kind of like gauge situation when switching to magic loop for the sleeves, but again, hoping that this will block out a little bit once I block it. The yarn is a superwash wool, so I'm also thinking it'll probably grow still quite a bit. At the moment, this version doesn't have quite the ease that as suggested in the pattern, but when I did my gauge swatch, it relaxed quite a little bit afterwards, so I'm at the moment, knock on wood, confident, I don't know where wood is, confident that it will grow to the right dimensions, and then I will see this weekend if it fits the recipient. It was really fun to knit such a small garment, to kind of still see get the full experience of like the sweater construction and everything, but have it on such a small gauge that goes by much quicker. And I do have quite a few friends and relatives with babies or toddlers, or that are gonna have a baby, so I think this was kicked off kind of my every now and then making smaller sized garments, which I think is really cute. Yeah, I really like the look of this. And actually, so with the drops charisma, I think I calculated that it would take me 4 balls based on the pattern and the yardage, but in the end it only took me 3. I did go into my gauge swatch to finish off the ribbing for one of the sleeves, just because I didn't want to dip into the last ball that I had and kind of open it. But yeah, that worked out nicely. So that is my last finished object for these 2 months. I hope I didn't go through them too quickly or too slowly. I found it a bit hard to figure it out. But yeah, that was a variety of things. And as I said, a lot of dark things except for these lovely socks. So I'm really looking forward to maybe cast on a brighter sweater soon. I have things in my stash for a, what's it called, lento sweater, that I have this kind of nicely watercolored fingering weight and a really light fluffy yarn for. So that's something I'm really excited to make. And then I can still show you 2 works in progress. So this is one of my works in progress, which is the Rainy Day Tee by Sari Nordlund. It's a t-shirt with this kind of lovely cable along the raglan, and I will talk in more detail about this in my next episode, because I am almost finished. I have to decide on the sleeve length, basically. I'm done with everything else. It has ribbing at the bottom, it has a collar. It's just the sleeves that I still have to finish knitting. I, at some point, thought about making it maybe 3/4 sleeve length, but now I'm back to maybe wanting to just have like a regular t-shirt length. Still have to make a decision, but hopefully now that I've cast off all of these other things, I can actually finally take a moment to think about it. And then I will talk about it more in my next episode. Just to a note on the yarn. I love, 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 love the yarn that I'm knitting this with. And it is, I have to find it, here we go. It is the John Arbon Knit by Numbers, which is a 50% Falkland Merino, I think, and 50% BFL, is that correct? And I have it in this beautiful kind of slightly grayish leaning green. In my mind, it's a bit of a bottle green as well. And it's just absolutely lovely worked up. It's much softer than I thought it would be actually, and squishy, and I absolutely fell in love with this yarn, so I definitely want to make a sweater with it in the future. But I also really already like the way this tee is coming along. I love the cable detail, and yeah, so this is my rainy day tee. I'm very excited to hopefully finish it soon and get to wear it. Maybe even does this work as a knit on knit situation? Actually, not too bad. I'll give it a try. And my other work in progress is finally something not so dark, which is this sock. These are the Under the Quilt socks by Stone Knits. Stone Knits has lovely colorwork socks, colorwork sock patterns that I've already made a few of, although all of those other colorwork socks that I made only had the colorwork on the leg and maybe a little bit around the toe, but they were never all over colorwork socks. So these ones, I cast them on, I think at some point at the end of October, could that be? Maybe mid-October even. And now it's the end of November, so it's taken me quite a while to get here. I've been working on these on and off because I had a few other things to work on, and I'm kind of prioritizing gifts at the moment over like these ones, for example. Yeah, I love the quilt star look of them. I find it absolutely gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to having these, but I have to say this is only the first sock at the moment, and I can already sense maybe a bit of a second sock syndrome situation coming, because it's not the all over color work can get a bit addictive once I get into it, but it's not like a sock that I reach for to get a few rounds done here and there. It is kind of like slow going. I hope though that I won't delay the second sock for too long, or even finishing this first one, so that I can wear these socks this winter. That would be lovely. A little bit more about the sock. We have, as I said, a lovely quilt star motif. It also has a twisted rib cuff, and it has this short row heel. This short row heel for me is a new thing. I'm very much a heel flap and gusset girly, and I love the heel flap and gusset, both the way the fit is on my foot, but also knitting it. It's just, I don't know, it's the first thing I learned. It's something that by now I go through quite easily, and I don't mind picking up stitches. I didn't think I would ever say this, but at this point I don't mind picking up stitches anymore. So this was kind of a new thing. It wasn't hard to follow. It's well described in the pattern, but it gave me, even though there were a few links in the pattern of kind of how to avoid holes, like how to pull the yarn tighter, it gave me these like holes around where you then kind of start working your heel from the pattern. I don't know if I can get to show it to you well. So we have some holes here. There. I don't know if you can see it well, but here and there as well. I try to close them as much as possible by kind of like tightening the color work and like pulling up the yarn into later rows to kind of knit that together with the working yarn, just to close up the holes, which has helped a bit, but not fully. There are still some unfortunate holes in there, which I think I'll just have to go back in and kind of like stitch them shut. I'm not super happy about that part. I also can't say anything about the fit of the heel yet, of course. But yeah, at the moment I would say I'm obviously going to do the same heel construction for the second sock, and then see maybe that if the second time it works a bit better with practice. Or if you have any kind of tips for this as well, drop them down below. Could also be, so this heel is worked without kind of any wraps or anything. Could be that maybe that is an issue, I'm not sure. But yeah, basically I'll see how it goes with the second one, but at the moment I'm afraid to say I don't think I'm a short row heel, at least this construction, convert just yet. And will happily go back to my heel flap and gusset once I knit another sock. A bit about the yarn. The lovely thing about this, I think I basically cast this sock on just when the pattern released or a week later. I love this for like sock yarns or new sock pattern releases. It's so easy for me to just cast on because the quantities are so little that I tend to always find something in my sock yarn stash, and it's kind of nice for spontaneous cast-ons. The colors I'm using in this one is this signature 4-ply from West Yorkshire Spinners in the colorway Butterscotch. This is just classic commercial sock yarn that I could pick up here quite easily, that I had in my stash. It's a 75% wool, which has, I think, like a 30% or something BFL content, and then 25% nylon. And I used this yarn before for gift knits and for my own socks, and I really, really like it. And then my contrast color is this John Arbon Exmoor sock yarn in this lovely brown colorway that I still had left over from another pair of socks. So this is then my contrast color, and both of them work up together quite nicely. For the color work itself, at the moment, I'm kind of alternating sometimes by just switching the yarn in my right hand, like picking it up and then picking up the other one again. And then for some sections, I'm also trying to kind of improve on my two-handed color work skills, which I have done before, but sometimes I have slight tensioning issues with that. But I feel like in this sock, I have gotten much better already. I feel like the color work so far is quite nice and even. And yeah, I think these socks will be really snuggly and warm because of the strands kind of going on the inside of it. So it's basically like a 2-layered sock. And just to say, I think for the sock, just because I know that color work can be quite tight and not as elastic as just knitting a single-stranded regular sock, I cast on 64 stitches for this, and then the pattern also has you do increases for the color work and do switch up a needle size, so just to make it as roomy as possible. Yeah, and I think I just discovered a mistake that I made on one quilt star. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. This one is can you see it here? This one shouldn't be there. It should be like this. Well, if it took me this long to see, I don't think it matters so much. Anyhow, these are all my works in progress. And I'm gonna meet a friend for a coffee now, so I will wrap this up here. I'm not gonna talk about acquisitions. I've had a few things move in the last weeks, but some of these are gift knits that I don't want to talk about at the moment, or not share the plans too early just yet. And I'm sure you'll see these yarns whenever I actually use them, and then I can talk a bit more about them. And yeah, so far so good. I think I'll wrap this up here. I'll hopefully have some more time in my next episode to talk a bit more about books I've been reading, shows I've been watching. Oh, one note, another finished object, but I don't have anything physical here, is that I finished the first draft of my next book. I finished it last week, actually. I think on Thursday I wrote the end after finishing the epilogue, and yeah, I'm very, very proud of this. It's the second, that's not true, it's the third book I've ever written, but the second as an adult. And I've been writing on it since June, I believe. And it's a mess of a draft, but I love this mess of a draft. There are many things that I still have to figure out, but I'm really happy that I reached the end of this draft and I kind of put a little bow on the story. And it just felt great, even though I know there are lots of issues with this that I still have, that future Hannah still has to work out. But for now, at least it's somehow in a book shape, although that only still exists on my computer, on my Google Drive. But what I did with my last one was basically to get it printed and ring bound, just to have it as a kind of like physical copy in the world. And I think I will do that as well. Just have to figure out where I do that and kind of figure out where to order that. And then hopefully next time I can show you the finished first draft in the video and talk a bit more about it if you're interested in that. Right. We're done now. I hope this wasn't too much of a rush, but I really just wanted to talk about knits and nothing else. So here we are. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know what you're currently making, or if you have any nice ideas for gift knits or what you're planning to make. Always very, very happy to chat all things yarn and knitting with you in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing if you like to get more of this content, and give the video a like below if you want to. And overall, I just hope you're having a lovely day, lovely evening whenever you're watching this. Happy Advent. I think this will go out probably around the 1st of Advent, so happy Advent season as well. I don't have a yarn Advent. I'm still not at the point yet where, I don't know, I think when most pre-orders were made, I was in a bit of a knitting slump, so it didn't really feel like the time to order anything. But I know that there is a great mystery sock Advent, I think. So I'm planning to participate in that one. I will link that below. It's just like a mystery sock pattern where I think every weekend a new clue is revealed for the next kind of cable section or something. And then my partner and I also ordered a cheese advent. I only know like sweet kind of like chocolate advent calendars, but the other day I saw in our local supermarket that they had a cheese advent calendar, and that felt appropriate. So I'm going to be eating cheese this December, a lot of it, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I hope my next episode won't be that long, because probably I'll finish this one soon enough so I can talk about it. Anyhow, I think do you call that a Midwestern goodbye if you say you're kind of finishing something, or like saying goodbye but then you stay for a while? Not sure. Anyways, I will actually wrap this up here, and I wish you a lovely day and talk to you soon. Bye bye.